Hey guys, Benio Baduk here. So take a look at this position. Black just played the second line Hane here. How do you think white should respond? Go ahead and pause the video if you'd like to think it over. Right, so white should Tanuki, play away. Yeah, because how many points does white really get around here from responding? Meanwhile, black expanded the corner and shrunk white's area and even retains the initiative to play anywhere they want. Meanwhile, there are really big places still on the board, like here, and this place is vulnerable, and even around here. Super big moves. So black just made a huge point change for free here. A big swing of points, and even gets to play again. So this is very painful for white, especially because if white had played, let's say here, then like if black plays away, at least white has this one, and then so black has no points here, and this is much bigger than before, right? Or even if black blocks, then like white would get all this for free. And then, yeah, black got smaller, white got bigger. Pretty big points difference compared to when white plays here and black gets to play away. So in this video, we're going to talk about how defensiveness can get in the way of our points efficiency, or average points per move, PPM, if you will. So let's take a look at another example here. So in this local position, right, let's just focus around here. Black just played this Hane. This time, how do you think white should respond? Again, go ahead and pause if you'd like to think it over longer. Okay, so the answer here is actually respond once, right? Because black's Hane doesn't gain anything in this case unless black at least connects it after. So we can go ahead and respond once. But after black connects, you really don't want to fix this, because then black can just, smash a pincer stone down here, just like you're going to smash that like button, right, to help my video with the YouTube algorithm. Yeah, so it's really quite an ironic move to defend like this, because there's like literally almost no points here for white anyway. So the question is like, what are these stones really doing? And we need to remember that our stones work for us. We don't work for them. So we shouldn't go out of our way to save stones, because what is a stone on the board to be captured but just one extra point, right? Like if black captures it, they get 4 extra points because there's 4 stones on these 4 intersections. That's only an extra 4 points. So what's the point of making sure to save every single stone you have when you're just going to get pincered and you're going to have to run around with inefficient moves that barely make any points, and then black is going to attack you and make points elsewhere along the way? Far, far, far more points than you're making with this group, right? So just remember, we don't serve our stones. They serve us. They're just tools to help us with the objective of the game, which is to have more points than the opponent. It doesn't matter who captured more stones than the other player, right? You could be captured 50 times and capture them 0 times and you still win the game. So yeah, it really doesn't matter. I have a bit of an analogy for you, right? Which is like, we have a broken car, okay? And the money we have is that we have Sente, right? So yeah, what we're gonna pay is Sente. We're gonna do something in Gote, right? Like protecting here or here is Gote, but also extending something like this is Gote. So it's the same price. Either way, we're giving Sente to our opponent, right? Because we deem this to be a situation not to play away from. But even then, maybe you could. Like if black pincers, maybe you can jump, and depending on the board position, maybe that's fine, right? Like maybe white's already here and black cannot make much around here. You can judge these things for yourself, but if you don't want to get painfully attacked and have to run around with pretty much dame stones, like neutral points, then you can just extend here yourself, right? The analogy is like this. Why fix this, slightly damaged car when we can, for the same price, buy a new car, right? If you buy a new car, you get this new thing here. You still have your slightly damaged car. You have both, right? You have like this whole thing and then like half of a thing, right? As opposed to just fixing this one car, right? And then you just have one car instead of 2 now. And then black even can still attack you because it's not 2 eyes, right? So yeah, we need to get over this defensiveness about our stones, this kind of DDK stuff in a way, because it's really in direct conflict with the objective of the game of actually having more points than our opponent, as opposed to more stones kept alive, which is just totally beside the point. Yeah. Points are points, and actually stones are points. And so when you bleed points just to protect more stones, it's the same as bleeding stones, right? I mean, stones are points. Like, the reason you don't want your opponent to capture this is because they get extra points, you know, 4 extra points if they capture this. Only 4, right? So it just doesn't make any sense to care about like white potentially capturing that stone or this stone or the other stone, because these stones right now, the functions of these stones, it's not really cutting black or like doing some special function. The only function this is really doing is basically like helping white surround points in this area, right? That's pretty much it. And so they only have really one clear function, which is about points, and they're not doing it very well. And even if you play some kind of protect move, how many points can you say that white has here, right? Maximum is like 3. That's actually terrible, right? So at least when you play here, you have up to like this much here and possibly a bit more around there. So you're getting close to almost like 10, right? Yeah. Also, there's even more reason to play that way, just in general, because the more of the board real estate that you occupy, right, that you like extend along here, extend more along here, here, we quickly run out of space for like big opening looking moves, right? Like imagine we're just playing an opening. So like here, whatever, and then this happens. Okay, and then maybe something like this happens, and we'll just do this one. Just a contrived example, right? Like even just right here, like we only played a few moves in the game, right? Just 2 simple Joseki, nothing in that corner yet. And already white cannot really make any points here. Like already, even with this much space, white playing a stone anywhere around here is really more reduction or prevention than anything. Because yeah, sure, white could make like maybe 2 points. But first of all, the amount of value black is going to get from, let me just erase this, from attacking white, like let's say playing something like this and surrounding stuff there, or you know, like black can build out here, or black can benefit like eventually even this kind of move. Like there's so many moves black is going to get attacking this not alive white group, which is going to be worth more than 2 points, right? Easy. In fact, black even can play here. So technically white has 0 points here, right? So no matter where you put the stone now, like here or shoulder hit, it's going to be 0 points pretty much for white. In fact, it's actually going to be more negative points, because weak groups are usually worth considered to be worth negative points, because the value of your opponent's attacking moves up to the point where you finally settle your group, it's going to be worth a lot more for black than whatever you get with this group. But the value of this group, of course, is that you stop black from like surrounding the whole area, right? That's the point. It's just kind of reduction. Yeah. So what I want to say here is that just a couple stones here, and already the real estate of, you know, area to occupy here for white is basically gone, and it's gone pretty much here too. Like the best white can do on the top side even is maybe something like this, you know, something like this or this. That's about the best white can do. And even then, it's not really points, right? Black can do some stuff here. Many ways to go about that, but yeah. White's actually a little bit weak still. If white approaches, black can kick and just play some kind of pincer and attack. So already white has like no potential here or here, and the game just started. Yeah, same thing, right? If white plays a single move here, just one, right? Like if black had played here, black still would have had enough time to make plenty of stuff, right? Or like this, get a nice corner, etc., right? But just by white playing a single move, like let's say even on this side, like let's even give black the more spacious side, right? But yeah, like black could play here, right, and get a little group, but even then it can be attacked. Like maybe white goes on top of it like this, right? Or maybe white kind of scoops out the base in this kind of way and makes black run. So even that's going to be a weak group. And if white plays on this side, then again, just like I showed on the other side, right? There's no space here. Even on this side, white can kick and like pincer somewhere here now. And black's not going to be making any points. So so basically, like the value of Sente is so important at all stages. And so coming back here, the reason I explained all that is because by stretching out like this, not only you get more points than like just blocking here, and you still have some kind of potential, some kind of value here, but you also have all the new value here, right? So I'll say it again, right? Why fix your car for the same price as buying a whole new one, right? You buy a whole new one, now you still have the car that needed fixing, but you have both. Same price. The price is Gote, you know, Sente. So, and the irony of this kind of blocking move is that black just pincers the whole thing, and white only has one eye here. So it's really quite ironic because like a lot of the time I see it, you know, pretty much every day that the people who play very defensive and are stuck in that, like you play it for like kind of scared reasons almost, or very protective reasons. But the irony is that you're actually in more danger now, like a lot more danger. And you're getting like no points, and black getting more points. Like it's all kinds of bad. So we need to know how to let go and just have no attachment to our stones or our territories, right? Just because you invested in this doesn't mean you have to keep defending it, because you just have to objectively look around to see what's kind of the best, right? This one takes at least as many points as would have been blocked here. Also takes away some of the space here that black could have had as kind of like what we're calling board real estate, right? The right side is already almost fully accounted for now. You're also widening your position, which like much later in the game, when you start expanding toward the center, you'd have more potential here because this is wider, right? A wider, you know, moyo potential here eventually. So yeah, there's all kinds of, you know, benefits there. Yeah. Okay, let's look at this example, right? So yeah, we're just ignoring the other side, right? So in this common joseki, right, which is like, you know, a high approach and this attach and drawback joseki, when black has a stone around here, it's pretty common for black to undercut like this. How do you guys usually respond to this move? You know, let me know, by the way, let me know in the comments whether this stuff helps you guys, whether my analogies and, you know, tips and stuff is effective for you, and just any thoughts you have on some of this stuff, right? There's going to be a lot of videos eventually on this idea. Basically, Go really rewards offense over defense. Like if you look at pro games, for example, right? A lot of what's going on in a lot of pro games is like, sure, they do still sometimes defend in Gote just simply, right? Just defend. But yes, but they do it way less than most amateurs, especially Q players. And they often would lean towards alternatives such as finding an offensive way to defend, right? Which kind of indirectly defends. For example, when you're a weak group, if you can turn your opponent also into a weak group, then them being weak limits how much they can kind of overstretch themselves and the angles from which they can attack and chase, because they're weak and they have to be careful too. So, you know, offense is really good defense in many ways in this game. And even when they don't have that kind of option, they'll trade, right? They'll sacrifice because they can just find somewhere else to do something equally threatening to the opponent instead and go for like a mutual destruction kind of offer, right? So if you think about it, let's say black plays here and white just defends, right? White basically stayed the same size here that they already were, right? Whereas black expanded their size here, right? So it kind of has to be good for black, especially if you imagine that white played the low move, right? And then when black plays here, are you really going to play this iron pillar? This like super inefficient, especially so early in the game, this two stones in the same place. No way, right? You're at least gonna jump, but I mean, even jump, you know, could be slow sometimes. So yeah, like let's go back to the this position. So there's a good reason why, at least in this, especially in this position, why white often ignores this move, at least until farther into the middle game. And that is because even when black plays somewhere here, let's just use this invasion as an example, then white can just attach on top and black kind of scoops out the territory potential that white had. But white never even spent a proper move to defend it anyway, so it's not that much of a loss. And plus, like let's say it goes like this. White actually got so wide here with the size of this wall, right? Wide in terms of like facing this way. So many different spots to jump to. And so thick with this group basically that it's actually hard to attack. And the way that Dan players play is that something that's very hard to attack is really the same as being alive. Like it's not actually alive, but for the moment, like for the next while, and for all intents and purposes, this is alive. That's how the players treat it, right? Whereas a lot of Q players, especially like closer to DDK or like weak SDK, are really concerned with like literal eyes, which is why a lot of players will, like even if they're trapped as white in like a little area like this, they'll still try to like force two eyes out along the edge here, even when it's kind of impossible. When really they should just have like they should just run, like just run away and believe that you'll find safety somewhere in the center. Yeah, so this group has not a single eye, and yet it is safe because any move that black plays along here, white can easily just jump out through like the hole, whichever place black doesn't play. So so after this, white's gonna Tanuki, right? So it's not like black gets to, you know, get this kind of incente. Yeah. White can also attach if they want here, yeah. Like if white is worried about this one not being sente. So I have a series of 5 videos, by the way, about all the invasions here, as well as same thing for the low approach one. So when black approaches like this and white ignores, then all the things that black can do here and like here, then there's going to be these moves are covered, right? I didn't really cover too much about like D or anything else, but just A, B, C here. So if you guys want to learn that stuff and pretty much bring your invasion knowledge about this shape right around like 5 Dan kind of level, then yeah, you can check out those videos. Even if you just pick and choose certain ones, like even if you just want to only learn like this simple one, right? Bum, 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 which also shows how to deal with it when white blocks here, by the way. So that's why white doesn't defend around here, even when black comes close like this. Because if you do, like, if you just think about it in terms of just you know, simplify, right? Just think about in a dumbed down way, right? White is like this, you know, black is like this, right? And has some control here. And then white has other stuff on the board, obviously. So then black plays here, which expanded this domain like this far, right? And then if white blocks, like I said already, right? White just kind of stays the same size. It doesn't feel good. So you should watch out for that and stop like clutching your belongings so tightly. Yeah, Go is about things on the board being amorphous and, you know, flexible, and territories relocating and changing and getting destroyed and getting revived and getting traded. So yeah, that's actually where Go gets really, really fun, actually, and very like thrilling and stuff. So yeah, let's look at another position, right? So here, I often see people just immediately responding because they're like, oh no, my stone. But a stone is just a stone. So here's another way to think about things. So when you're about to put a move down, right? Like I have a thing called the 15-point rule, Benkyo's 15-point rule. And you can adjust this, you can lower the standard and say like 10-point rule. But the way that one works, for especially a future video, we'll talk about it. And this is something, you know, this is all stuff I talk about in my classes. If you guys want to check out that stuff on Patreon, group classes and video library of those paid private classes. Yeah. So anyway, so when you're going to put a move down, right? Especially like in the opening or like really just anytime before the end game, your move has a heavy responsibility. It needs to be worth usually around like at least 15 points or more. Even into like the late middle game, usually the moves are worth like at least like 14, 15 points a piece, or maybe as low as like 12. So, you know, even if you're still vague on the value of some moves, like the classes I offer, they show a lot of second line move examples because we can actually concretely count and like prove the point values of those. And those act as good frames of reference for the moves that are not on the edge, like you can compare, right? And also good when in doubt moves, right? Like when you're in the middle game, you don't know where to play, but there's nothing urgent. You can just play somewhere on the second line. It's like one of the typical big ones between black and white territories, right? And a lot of those second line moves are worth like 10 points or more sometimes. So they're very, very big, bigger than they look. So they make for really good when in doubt moves. Yeah. So then you would understand like this is a 15-point move. This is a 10-point move. And it makes sense because when black plays here, this move must be smaller than black's move here because usually each spot is worth exactly the same points for both colors. Like not the same spot necessarily, but for example, for white to play here or here, it's worth 10 points. And for black to clamp here and capture like this, it's also 10 points. It can be slightly different than 10 on the edge here, depending on co, but don't worry about that. But another way of thinking about it is that this one, you know, has to be smaller than this one, because if it had have been white's turn to play here first, white wouldn't have played here, white would have played here, right? So like obviously we're not gonna just play here, right? Why would we when we could play here? Yeah, but then black, you know, black played this one. So the value of the next moves has already gone down because now the corner is like fully locked away, right? So even if you didn't know this one is 15, this one is 10, you should feel that, okay, black played here, the next move here must be smaller, right? And so what I was going to say about the, like about stones is that when the stone is still in your hand, so to speak, right? And you're going to play it, you need to make sure that in terms of how you can value it, you know, how it's value, whether it's getting points, whether it's an attack move, whether it's a very, very important defense move, or maybe like a moyo building or like thickness move, whatever it is, right? Somehow you need to assess its value to be at least more than 10 points if you haven't reached endgame yet, right? So before you put it on the board, it needs to be extremely valuable to you. But once it's already on the board, boom, suddenly it is just a stone. And the functions of stones is always changing, are always changing. So a move that is very, very important at the moment that you played it, the very next turn could just be a trash stone, right? Like you peep them, you peep a cutting point, or like you peep a one space jump, right? And then they connect. Boom. Now suddenly your peep might be just completely unimportant and it already did its job. And that's the same thing with like every single stone on the board, pretty much. You know, the value keeps changing and you need to understand that unless the stone has very important functions that you need to protect, it's just a stone. And what is a stone? Just an extra point on the intersection, right? Yeah. So just keep that in mind, right? You need to, you know, one of the ways to, you know, stop being DDK and you know, also traverse the Q levels to at least reach, let's say like strong SDK or get into the down levels is to stop being so protective of stones and realize that they don't matter. And stones are actually just points. So like I said earlier, losing points and bleeding points and losing track of like what's actually the biggest move on the board, because you're so obsessed with either saving or capturing like small groups of stones, it's just an ironic thing because you're doing that because them capturing you is points for them, but you're losing points for that. So, you know, it's all just points in the end. It's all just a number in the end, right? Okay. Yeah, moving along to this example, right? So black plays here, closes off this corner. You guys know what I'm going to say already, right? Like some people would play like this because they're, you know, trying to protect this. But why do you need to fix the broken car when you can just take a new car, right? No point. And black already made a positive exchange here. Like same for black, right? Black has a problem now because white can clamp, right? White can clamp and like connect under. But let's look at this result, because look, white clamped and got inside, but white is still very low and pushed down to the first line, right? So currently, without any more moves from white, none of these, for example, are points. It's only reduction. And that means that black already made a gain with this exchange, because white, what black achieved there is to drastically reduce the value or like the power of white's next move in the corner. Because if black hadn't done this trade of like A for B here, which is super good for black, right? And black could even play away. If black didn't do that and played just somewhere else, right? Then white could just come all the way in, right? Or like do this Joseki or even slide, and that's, you know, like white can even Tanuki after sliding or then get this later. It's actually so much better already than the version where this happens and black plays away and all white can do now is a little endgame looking reduction thing here, right? Like this is much worse for white than if white gets to just slide or like do this. Because now white's like way off of the edge here and like actually doing powerful stuff. Yeah. So, you know, you guys, I'll make a video. Let me know if you guys want me to make kind of an isolated video on this one topic. But a mistake that a lot of students of mine, I've seen them making, and I realize that it's actually very potentially almost a universal thing in a way for many Q players, is thinking of moves too much in terms of sequences and like entire packages of things going on in an area, in a certain spot. But you need to actually isolate the value of your moves. Like each of your moves individually needs to be very, very big. Like just on a move by move basis, you need to make sure that each move you play doesn't require a bunch of future moves to become a good move. Like it needs to be already good and already doing a lot, and you know, more than 10 points of overall value. Like if you're playing a move, for example, that is focused on the goal of surrounding territory, then in that specific goal, it had better be taking more than 10 points, right? Or like taking and preventing in total, basically. Like for example, when white slides here, obviously we can see that this move by itself doesn't get more than maybe like 4 points initially, but it has a lot more value than that, because it's also taking away everything, like a lot of what black would have got if black had dropped down here and gotten all this. So the value is actually far, far, far more than 4 points. Not to mention, you know, follow-up values is an important thing too. But just remember that, you know, follow-ups are great, but your initial value, your stone's effect all by itself still needs to be pretty good too. Yeah, so that's a topic that we could have a whole video on. So I hope that stuff made sense to you, right? And then we've got one more example here, which is like black playing here. You know, even this one, right? This one is even closer to the white stone. So you might feel a compulsion to block it, right? And blocking it would give you follow-ups like this clamp, for example, or even this attachment. Yeah, but actually black still made the corner bigger, right? And made white just only block and stay the same. And even though if black leaves it, then this area is like a bit broken, like a bit, you know, faulty, like the car has like a, you know, broken bumper or something, right? It's still valuable because by making that exchange, first of all, imagine that white surrounds this whole thing, then this exchange is still neutral anyway, because even though black, you know, white gains a point from the capture, white also fill themselves up with that stone then, right? So it's neutral and it's, you know, it cancels out. So that's why black doesn't need to care about losing the stone, because white already blocked with putting a stone down here. So it's more about what does the stone do and like how does it help this corner, right? So this one actually gets in white's way when it comes to white trying to do things like here, right? Like this one. Now white can't even Hane under because it just gets captured, right? So the way that this invasion would work is like completely changed and more difficult now. And like the slide, right? The move that is usually a slide, which like if black plays here, white would get sente. You know, after this exchange, now if white plays on the exact same spot and black clamps it by taking advantage of the liberties of this white stone, which by the way, that black stone, that's one of the things it's doing, right, is to reduce the liberties. And that's why now white's clamp here turns into a gote move, because it ends up like this, and then black has sente. Normally that spot, right, that S16, that was the slide that finishes in sente if black wants to take the corner. Yeah, which was like, you know, like this. So it's a huge difference already, right? So this one really just, it really gets in white's way with anything, like even if white, you know, another option is white's attach and hane AI style Joseki here. But yeah, if black did this exchange already, then even that one is, you know, that variation is going to get a bit frustrated here. Maybe black Ataris and captures this and decides to take the corner and let white make off with this little one stone, right? So everything just changes, right? So this has a very positive effect for black. So even here, I would once again say, hey, why are you fixing this car with that, you know, $1,000, whatever, right? When you can spend $1,000 to get this new car, right? If black follows up on this, which is the thing you would be afraid of, isn't it so slow? Isn't that two second line moves in a row in the same spot as a Nobi? Isn't that very slow, right? So white just keeps playing more speedy things, and like we didn't really set up the board for good move examples, but you know, white plays another 15 to 20 point move somewhere, or like 20 plus point move, whatever. Black plays here. Okay, cool. You keep doing that. I'm just gonna keep taking much bigger things, right? Like how many points did these 3 stones in a row get, right? So who cares? You have a stone there. Who cares? All that stone is just an extra 1 point on the intersection. It's absolutely trivial at this stage of the game. Yeah. So, okay. I hope some of that made sense to you guys, right? The broken car analogies and the thing about, you know, we don't help our stones. Our stones help us, right? Like you could make a fun kingship or you know, ruler type analogy there, right? You know, Go wants you to be a tyrant, a cold, tyrannical ruler that, you know, sacrifices their pawns, and, you know, the kind of ruler that thinks that all their people are there to serve them. To be honest, that's actually the way to play powerful Go and to be efficient. Yeah, you have to be just cold like that. Yeah, and completely detached from your stones and territories. Seriously, you I remember how it feels, so I know, but you have to fight against that, you know, that attachment to your that desire to protect your territories and to finish your territories. Like I even have a YouTube video somewhere, you can find it on my channel, that talks about like don't finish your territories, right? Because the big place on the board in terms of opening is which side is the emptiest usually, right? Like that's one of the basic opening principles, at least. There's a few other priorities that you factor in as well. But what a lot of Q players will do is they'll rush to finish their area, like let's say something like this, just as a quick contrived example, right? Instead of going after the empty spaces. And you have to realize, like, if white plays here, white cannot make any territory. So this is like completely one-sided, right? It's only territory for black, which makes it basically half value in a sense. Instead, you should be going after the coveted areas that both colors want, right? Because you get double impact that way. Not to mention, this move has no follow-ups. Like the only follow-ups now are stuff like jumping here or expanding around here, which is like, you're just going after the center, which is, yeah, very, very middle game and like smaller stuff. It's usually for way later. So in terms of opening moves, there's no more follow-ups now. It's all done. That's terrible. That means that's like having an empty hand of cards, right? In card games, Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone, maybe like poker, right? Like more cards in your hand means more options, more future. This side has no future. That's it. What you see is what you get, and that's it. There's no hope. So yeah, that's multiple reasons why you shouldn't be finishing your territories, but that's beside the point, right? But that's like defensiveness too. So you need to let go of things. You need to let this get destroyed if white threatens it, as long as there's something big elsewhere. All right, anyway, this video has gone on long enough. Please like and comment and all that if this helped you, and you know, if you want to help the channel and all that. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.